Welcome to Belonging at the Top, driving performance through people, the podcast where leadership gets real and people come first. Your hosts are Dr. Natalie Parks, psychologist, behavior analyst, best-selling author, and your go-to expert for dismantling systems of injustice while building equitable, high-performing teams. And Anthony Butler, leadership coach, thought leader, speaker, and master of helping leaders unlock their team's full potential, one breakthrough at a time. Together, they're here to tackle your toughest leadership challenges with just the right mix of science, strategy, and a sprinkle of humor. In this episode, Natalie and Anthony turn the discussion to leadership itself. The term leadership is thrown around all the time, but what does it actually mean to be a leader? Continue listening as our hosts discuss their top 5 traits that every leader should have.
Welcome to another episode of Belonging at the Top. Natalie and I are together in St. Louis again. Right. Always good to be home. Yeah. All right. So we've got, what's our topic today?
We are talking about the top 5 qualities of leadership.
The top 5 qualities of leadership. So in one of our pre-production meetings, we realized, again, kind of like we did with belonging, we're talking about belonging, and we never really defined. We did, but we didn't have a whole episode dedicated to belonging. So now we're going to do the same thing with leadership, because that's the goal of the podcast, is to really target leaders and what they're going through, where people want to be leaders. So we're going to spend some time today talking about what it really means to be a leader, what a leader means. So let's dive in. How do you define leadership? I've got my definition. How do you define what a leader is?
What a leader is. I always, when I think about that question, I think about all the posts that I see that talk about leadership versus manager, or leader versus manager.
Because they are different.
They are very different. But I think when I think about leadership, I think there are 2 main things that I think about. One, the person who is in a position of a leader, and then the person who is actually a leader, who doesn't necessarily need to be in the position of the leader. I think for today, it's important to talk about the person who fits both of those. They're both in a position of leadership and they are an actual leader. And what does that mean? So that means that you are in charge of people, of the things that they do. You're not necessarily just a worker. You are in charge of getting other people to do the work, so to speak.
Yep.
And you are really good at motivating them, at tying their jobs to the overall purpose of why they are there, but also why the company is there. And ultimately, you have created an environment where people are excited or content, at the very least, to show up and work and actually work hard.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I think of it almost exactly the same way, right? So a leader is not the person who is making the cog or whatever. Right? I used this example before in other episodes, that just because you're good at what you do doesn't mean that you're good at leading other people doing that exact same thing. So a leader is not the person, and I think you said it, it was a little nugget that I want to pull out of your opening definition, is that it's not, the leader's job is not to do the job. It is to inspire people and motivate people and do some analysis and make sure that you're creating an environment where other people can do the job. And I think that's where sometimes we can, both even as if you are a leader who does that, but then sometimes you fall into the trap of somebody's out, you want to show that you're leading by example, so you dig in and you start doing the job, and then you get stuck doing the job sometimes. I know I've been guilty of that a number of times. And I think there's a place for that to show, hey, I do lead from the front. I won't ask you to do anything that I won't do, but you can't be the one doing
all the time.
The job all the time. Your job is to inspire others, motivate others, pull the best out of them. So it's almost like, for those of a music analogy, it's the producer on a song, right? Yep. The producer may not be the one singing background. They may play an instrument here or there, but their job is to pull the best out of that artist.
Exactly.
Their job is to pull something out of them. And the directors in the movie will be the same thing, right? Yep. Yes, we have direct people who are self-direct and they're in movies, but in the same movie they're directing. But the key job, the key point is, am I pulling the best out of you? Am I getting you to bring your best effort? Am I creating an environment where you feel like you can do that? And then getting to a point where the job is done and it's done at a high level. So we talk about leadership, that's it. And the other thing I wanted to just highlight that you said is, again, something that we've said repeatedly on the show as well, is that the title doesn't make you a leader. So I think that's when we get to the different types, right? The title, you can be in leadership and still be a leader, or not be a leader, or be a horrible leader. And so we're going to talk about what are the things that can make you what are the 5 kind of basic things you need in leadership to really be an effective leader, right? So again, we're targeting this for people who are in the role already. So if you're not in a leadership role, but you aspire to be, you might be in a leadership role somewhere else, maybe not at work, at home, in the community, in your D9 organization, whatever it may be.
In your D9 organization.
Listen, we gotta always show love to at least the alphas, maybe the deltas. And so, but I know, rude. But no, so I think that's a distinguishing thing for folks as you're listening through the rest of the episode. That's the point we're coming from. It's all right. You're in the role. What should you be doing to be an effective leader? And so we're going to talk about that, right? Yeah. So style. So we said there were 5, right? There are 5 basic.
We said we were going to choose our top 5. Yep.
Top 5. All right. Yes, our top 5. So we're not looking at any model. This is what Natalie and I
both. This is what we just think.
Think about as some of the top 5 things that as a leader you need to be able to possess, a skill or behavior you need to be able to implement and to do well in order to be effective at your job. So what's your number 1? What's your top thing?
I'm going to say my number 1 is, I'm trying to tie it into a larger, is really listening and observing and assessing. So
that's 3 things. Go ahead.
I'm trying to tie it into 1. Maybe be a gatherer of information. That's how we tie it all together. What that means is I am trying to get to know the environment. I need to know what you need to be most successful. What resources, what time, what software, whatever. I need to know you individually and my team collectively. So I have to listen to you. When are you at your best? What tasks are you better at? What do you hate about your job? All of those things. What personally makes you excited to do your work? And then how does all of that listening to the organization, right? Of how do I understand others and their understanding of why they are here and what the organization is trying to do. So number 1, be a gatherer of information.
Yeah, you can't have your head in the sand, right? So you can't be a gatherer of information if you're just stuck in your office. So there's an organization I used to work with where a new leader said, hey, they were formerly remote, brought everybody back into the office. And then once they are all back in the office, he didn't communicate, interact with, literally stayed in his office the entire time of his tenure.
Is what a better way to make everybody mad.
Better way? You mean I had to come in for work?
And you're not going to talk to me?
And on this 1.5-hour drive in a DC metro, and then this dude is just in his office the whole day? Yeah. Barely says hello? And that point being, I think that's, again, another way I think I would probably put your point is that person has to have some observational critical thinking, right? Yeah. Or environmental critical thinking. So it's the people, it's the environment, it's the culture, and then piecing all that together. So I think that, great number 1.
Thank you.
So are we doing 5 each, or are we just going to do 5? I don't care. We'll figure it out.
No, what's your number 1? And then we'll decide.
Number 1. So and I say this often to folks too. I think this is one of the things that, and I can probably go hand in hand with about being an observer of people and processes and things, is that after you've done that, you have to have a bias for action.
I like it.
As a leader, you have to have a bias for action. So getting the data, seeing something that happens, positive or negative, and you take no action whatsoever, you drop the ball. So I think you've got to have a bias for action, because in leadership and in business and in most things in life, time is not your friend. Time is your nemesis. So I've been saying that since I don't know how long. Time is most things that happen in life. The longer you wait to deal with it, the worse it gets.
Yep.
The longer you wait, the worse it gets. Ignoring the debt collection phone calls, ignoring the fruit in your refrigerator that you knew you should have cut open and ate and eat.
Not opening the bills from mail.
Not opening the mail. Like all those things, like the things, the longer you wait, things typically get worse. Everything's not like wine. And even with wine, people say, oh, it gets better with time. It does. Then it peaks.
Unless you open it and then let it sit.
And that, right? Or if you don't open it. Oh, I've had this bottle for 15 years. Like, that's not the right grade of wine to keep for 15 years. It peaked 7 years ago, and now you open it on this decline. So I think, a bias for action for me is probably one of the critical things. Because even if you haven't mastered all of the other things we're going to talk about what a leader needs, but you see something's not working, you see something's not right, or you see something that needs to be highlighted or you want to replicate, even if the action is, hey, I don't know how you did that, but let's talk about it. Or, ooh, that don't look right to me.
Right.
Let me go get HR. Let me go get the COO. Let me go
Right.
get somebody else to come in to figure out what the
They can
answer
tell me.
is. So I think that's for me, that's it. It's having a bias for action. And it leads, my last comment leads to another point that you don't have to have all the answers. I think sometimes leaders fall into this rut of, I need to know all the answers all the time. No, you don't. Not at all. You need to know how to get the answer.
Yes.
You need to know where to go to get the answer. And you need to have that observational skill from your number one that says, I need to know there's a problem that needs to be addressed, whether it be a team interpersonal problem, whether it be an operational problem. You need to know enough and have collected enough data to know that something is awry and that this is not how things are supposed to be. And then after you have that aha moment, you got to do something about it. You got to have a bias for action. So that's, for me, that's my top thing. I think the bias for action saves you from a lot of the other woes of leadership. Because if you see something that needs to be addressed and you address it immediately, that's a lot better than saying, I don't know how to deal with this yet. Let me think about it. And some of you are thinking like, oh, I'm a more of a contemplative person. I'm more egalitarian. I got to get data. Yeah, you got to do something, but you still have to communicate. That's my process. And communicating, that's my process, is an action. It's still identifying that there's a problem. It's still bringing people on who are stakeholders to the situation and say, hey, we got a problem. I don't know what all the answers are. I don't know what all the details are, but
Here's what we're doing.
This is what I see. This is why I'm calling it out. I don't know what to do, but let's talk about what that is.
Well, and I think the only thing I would say to that is also make sure that you don't get stuck in that analysis paralysis or
Correct.
get stuck in that I'm going to continue to gather information and continue to tell you I'm working on it and maybe I'm communicating, but I am still not taking an action, which is in of itself an action, right? If I'm deciding not to choose, I'm still deciding something. And when you are deciding not to choose, what you are truly deciding is to stay with what is. And so if you know there's a problem and you're choosing to not act upon it or take action to try to fix it or improve it, then you are truly choosing to not.
Yeah.
And I think that's where people fall apart. They're so worried that they're going to make the quote unquote wrong decision, or maybe they don't have enough information or haven't talked to everybody yet. But in all of that, you also need to recognize that you are still choosing to be okay with where things are.
Yeah.
And if you're okay with where things are, then fine. But own that.
Own that and the consequences that come with it.
Right.
And so I think that is a thing. And so another business example that I use often that kind of relates to it is that you don't, most time, that decision paralysis you talked about, nothing's going to be perfect ever. It's never going to be perfect. But a lot of times the first to market wins.
Yes.
You have a great idea, and your mind has the perfect idea, but somebody else across town, across the globe has a similar idea and they go to market first. All of a sudden, we all know what an iPod was, but we didn't know what the other 3 devices that came out that were better than the iPod.
You still don't know what they are.
I do, and I'm going to do them, but that's the example I use all the time. The iPod wasn't the best music.
It was the first.
It was the first.
Yes.
And now we have Apple Everything. We all have Apple Everything. I'm still Team Android, but there you
go.
go.
Team Android
Team
here
Android
at Belonging at the Top.
Yes.
I think another thing that you said that might lead me to another quality is humility. So you said that you don't have to have all of the answers. And I honestly think the best leaders don't try to have all the answers. Mm-hmm. They empower their people to have the answers. Yep. And they recognize that no matter how long you've been there, no matter how long you've been in the position, no matter what position you are in, you have something to add. And that even the highest level leader can learn from the most entry level person. And I think that is a level of humility that high level leadership must have. Not only am I willing to jump in and do the job when that is needed, but I recognize that you might be better at doing that job that you're doing every day. Even if I did it for 20 years before I moved up, you are now the one doing it, right? And I think all too often I see leaders, typically it's the worry, it's that imposter kind of, the worry that people are going to quote unquote find out that they don't have all the answers and then they're going to lose respect for them. What I have found is that people have more respect for the leaders that are willing to say, great question, I don't know. Or what do you think about it? Or let's call Bobby in and ask Bobby what he thinks about that. And recognizing that everyone can always teach you something new.
Yep.
So I'm going to go with that one. I don't
Yep.
know if that's my number 2 or our collective
Or
number 4.
Before or 3?
3.
3. Like 3.
3?
Yeah, 3.
There we go.
But 4 is again related, I think. So with that humility, you have to have a spirit of collaboration as well.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
again, because you can't do it all alone, right? You got to have, and part of that spirit of collaboration is knowing how to pick talent, right? And picking the right people for the team. And again, going back to season number 1, in one of our more popular episodes, that you've got to hire slow, fire fast.
Yes.
And so recognizing when talent isn't working out, the team isn't working, but taking the time to develop a relationship with people you're bringing onto the team so that collaboration becomes easy, and collaboration does not become something that's going to cause that decision paralysis and prevent you from being able to go into action and have a bias for action, because you still got to manage this bad relationship. But having that, and that can be collaboration among your team, your peers, your subordinates, partners, customers, whoever it may be, but you're not on this island by yourself, right? So I know we have a lot of people who are into poetry. I don't know, where's he going with this? But one of my favorite poems is Invictus, right? One of my favorite poems is Invictus.
I wonder why.
And so the last stanza says, I'm the captain of my fate. I'm the master of my soul, right?
Yep.
Just because you're the captain of your fate, you still have shipmates. It does not mean
Exactly.
you do everything by
Exactly.
yourself, right? It means, and I was well beyond my process in my 30s, and I realized, wait a minute, a captain has a lieutenant,
Yep.
a whole crew, somebody to man the sails or something else when he's not around. Oh, yeah, I don't have to be the one who does everything
Right.
and controls everything. You have to have some spirit or a team around you, or building that team around you, or you can collaborate, people that you trust, so that you aren't doing all the things,
Exactly.
but you have the qualified and trusted people around you that you say, oh, nope, that's not my thing. And so even if someone comes to me for the answer, I'm like, I don't know, let's go ask the CFO. Let's go ask the COO. I don't know. Let's go ask the cashier. They don't want to deal with the public every day, not me. So I think having that spirit of collaboration works. So we've got number 1 is your observation. Gatherer of information, action for bias, humility, and the spirit of collaboration. There we go.
I want to add to the collaboration, because I think we think about collaborating and, oh yeah, I can work with other people and go to other people, but we tend to have a bias to go to the people that tend to think most like us, right? Yeah. We tend to go collaborate with our co-signers as opposed to collaborating with our opposers. And what we know about teams, just like you said, you need a team of people, but you need a team of people who actually think differently from one another. Right. Otherwise, you just find yes people. You're not really finding people who can do all of the things. And if we go back to the ship thing, and I'm thinking about the Navy because clearly my husband is a Navy person, but each person on that ship has an expertise area. Whoever is on the right side of the ship is going to see different things than somebody on the left side of the ship.
I think they call them different terms, though. It's not that, right?
Whatever.
Don't embarrass him like this.
Sorry, baby. Anyway, back to my analogy. But those people on the right side of the ship also don't know what's going on the other side, whatever that side of the ship is. And vice versa, people who are inside working in the engine, or even the people who are cooking or doing the laundry, they have no idea what's happening other places. And so I could say, because I'm in the kitchen making dinner for everybody and everything smells good, looks good, and the temperature's right and all this stuff, like everything is great, and yet we are about to get bombed. And so if I only collaborate with people...
dark, why don't you? Jesus. Could have been an iceberg?
No, we're not the Titanic. We are the Navy.
Been a pirate?
We are the Navy.
It's okay.
Anyway, we're about to get bombed. And so as a leader, the point is that if I only talk to people who see what I see and agree with me and share my same perspective, there could be, whether it's competition, whether it's a problem to solve, whether it's getting perspective from the cashier about how our new cash register system is working, that I thought was going to be spectacular and everybody on the front line absolutely hates, because that's never happened. Because we never talked to them, right? And we never actually found out what they needed. So I think when we think about collaboration, it is really not just are you collaborating, but are you being very strategic and deliberate about who you're collaborating with, and as you said, who are you putting on that team? Don't just put people that you like working with. Sometimes the most frustrating person is actually the person you need.
Yeah, no, I agree. And for me, I think part of the challenge is like, because almost one thing almost leads to something else, right? So even when we get to that point, we're talking about collaboration and understanding it, is you got to have an ability to create psychological safety, right? And so if you don't surround yourself with yes people and people who think like you, you're going to surround yourself with people who have great ideas, good ideas, who may think, talk, act differently than you do. You got to make sure that those behavioral things don't become systematic problems only because I don't like the way she talks to me. Not that it was rude. Not
I don't
that it
like
was
the way
evil,
she presents.
not that it was malicious. You just didn't like the way she presented. But was it a good idea, right? So how do you get around that, and how do you use your skill sets and building relationships to see for what the communication for what it is and the skill set for what they bring to the table, and so that you don't just sit around and you get a bunch of people who are all laughing at the same jokes when that's not maybe fun, but won't be as, and it might even be effective. So I want to say that too. I think part of the time we always say that, oh, you need people who think differently than you and have a different frame of mind. Having people who around you act like you and think like you can be effective. It might not be the best product, but it's a product that works, right? And so I think I never want to get into that category of, oh, I've got to have somebody different than me because we're limiting ourselves. It can work, but you probably are.
Better.
It could be better. Could be better. So I think those are some of the things that, some other concepts we talked about in season 1 and earlier in this season, is that all these things play into creating a system of belonging or culture of belonging, that you have to have that sense of making sure that people have the comfort level of and are comfortable with you and your team and the culture to be able to present those differing ideas.
And to collaborate.
Exactly.
So we got one left.
One left. So I would say after all of that, and some people who know me are going to be shocked that I say this, that you have to have some level of empathy.
Says the least empathetic person I know.
I am not going to address that.
Previously, historically, you've worked on it.
I have worked on it. My emotional intelligence has improved of the, but that's, to my last point, it gets lost because I'm direct and to the point.
You can be direct and to the point and empathetic at the same time.
That's what I say all the time.
Yes.
So when why are you crying? That's me being empathetic. See,
it's not you being.
It is empathetic. I really want to know what's wrong.
But so you need to. That was empathetic. I really want to know what's wrong, not why are you crying. Perfect illustration of what not to do and what to do better.
But exactly what to do better, because I've learned that there is a way. But still, the point is that you've got to have some sense of empathy, because people want to work for people who care for them, who at least they think like them. It makes it easier to come to work. Now, do you have to like me? No, not really. I want you to at least respect me, but I think there are times, because life happens. Life happens. And so when we talked about a grief episode, when we talked about returning back to work, just having the common courtesy to be like, hey, I know there's some changes going on. How is this affecting your family? Are you cool? You need anything else? Are you going to be able to work with the new system? That's an empathetic approach, still maintaining the process of the new thing, whatever we're talking about, that's being implemented at the agency, or just addressing what's going on in their life. Hey, you've been out of it, I've noticed. Well, okay, goes a long way for your team to see, like, all right, yeah, I'm not just my product, I'm not just how I perform, but I'm still seen as a person. Right. And same thing as in another episode as well, is, hey, people see that when you as a leader, you interact with, you notice, and you treat people in service roles, vendors, as humans. Right. You might not think of it as empathy, but you come across more empathetic when you are having those when you can have that conversation, or at least that acknowledgement, and people see that, oh no, he's a good guy. He actually treats everybody with some sense of humanity, right? So being human, treating other people as humans, but for the sake of a list, it's have a level of empathy. So
I'm gonna build on that.
5B?
5B. I think it ties in with empathy, but I would say you have to value people. And when I say value people, you have to believe that every single person has positive value.
Right.
And I think that allows you to be more empathetic, right? When people are not having a good time. I think, and this is very much the behavior analyst in me. My husband thinks it's the good person in me. It's absolutely not that.
He thinks you're a good person.
He does.
Wow.
I got him. I have him
bamboozled
so
me.
fooled. But I always recognize that when people are not showing up as maybe I would like them to, or performing as they really need to, that there is some reason for that. And the reason is not because they are lazy, a bad worker, they don't care about the job, any of that. I will argue all day, every day, that there is nobody, and okay, maybe one person somewhere, whatever. I can't speak in absolutes, but most people, the vast majority of people, do not want to show up and do a shitty job.
Man.
Can I curse on you?
You just did.
Okay. Sorry if I offended anyone.
But this is not the first time we've cursed.
Listen, we are in a clinic with kids.
Yeah, we are recording today from Natalie's office in St. Louis. So, yes. So maybe you shouldn't curse in here,
right?
But you can curse on the episode.
On the episode.
There you go.
So, anyway, I truly believe that if people are not doing a good job, that there's more to the story, right?
Yeah.
There's maybe something, as we said, you have something outside that is coming with you to work. The resources are not working. We just implemented and spent millions on this new system that broke your workflow, and nobody is asking you. Instead, they're telling you, like, why don't you appreciate our new fancy system? And it's like, because it sucks.
Yeah.
So I think empathy comes more easily. Empathy is absolutely needed. I think it comes more easily when you truly value somebody else. We're living in a world where it's so easy to discount other people, and where that has become the more popular thing to do. But I think even those that I disagree with on so many levels still have something positive to contribute.
And I've always said, in the workplace, you have to value your coworker. You have to value the people on your team. If not, it's not going to work. Then somebody's going to end up making a decision for you. You're going to be asked to leave, or the person who you thought was really great but really doesn't like you leaves because they don't feel valued on the team. So I think that's something that definitely goes hand in hand with empathy. So I accept your 5B.
Thank you.
Your modification of
my modification, my upgrade.
But no, but yeah, you got to have that. You've got to be able to do that and treat people as humans. Because if not, that's the whole point of creating belonging, right? So that's what I think why we started this podcast, is that you can be a great leader. You can be a productive leader and a high-performing leader. Doesn't mean you're a great leader. So just because you're doing well and doing good doesn't mean that the people who work with you and for you look at you and, oh man, I like working with him. No, not necessarily. And so I think there's a difference. And I think for the longevity of your company, of your culture, of your project, whatever it may be, I think we collectively believe that you've got to do that in a system that creates belonging, because that is what's going to propel you to move forward. If you're the business owner, it's going to drive your revenues up. And if you are the team member, you're going to feel, you're not going to have a bunch of clock watchers at work. You're going to have people who come to work who enjoy what they do, or at least can tolerate coming to work every day, as opposed to getting up Monday morning like, here we go again, another week at this place, right? We want to definitely avoid that. But I think these are all key things. So again, this is just our top 5-ish things that we think the skills and qualities and talent that leaders need to have in their leadership journey to be more effective and to create cultures of belonging that ultimately lead to high-performing teams. But I think that's a good place for us to stop today.
I think so.
And again, this is just ours. There are more out there. You can go Google right now, top qualities of leaders, and you'll see a top 10 list, top 5 list. You see some overlap.
You can put 100 qualities together
Easily.
Very easily.
But
yeah, I think from our perspective. So with that, remember that great leadership starts with belonging.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Belonging at the Top. We hope it sparked new ideas for fostering belonging in your leadership journey. If you found it insightful, please like and subscribe to our podcast for more thought-provoking discussions. We'd also love it if you could share it with others who might benefit from the conversation. If you have any feedback or topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes, please email us or drop us a note on Instagram or LinkedIn.